Today, we're going to talk about some news within the sports card industry that I think is maybe another reminder for why breakers and people that rely on this industry in order to put bread on the table should be a little bit concerned. And this does, in fact, relate to the PSA partnership with GameStop. Now, I'm sure many of you guys would have seen this for yourself by now, but if you haven't really seen the news, about 1 to 2 days ago, PSA and GameStop, the video game retailer came out and announced a collaboration between the two companies. And what it ultimately means, as you can sort of see on screen, and if you can't, I'll zoom in when I do the editing, is that essentially they're going to become a PSA authorized dealer, and PSA will provide authentication and grading services for trading cards through selected GameStop stores across the USA, which I think is a huge thing for collectors. I think this is amazing for the industry. I think it's really good that we're breaking down barriers and getting people more opportunities to sort of send cards in to get graded. One of the big concerns we've had with, traditional, group submitters in the past is people like Mark's Cards, right? People that you don't really know. They're just, one-man operations, operating under smoke and mirrors and the like, and are doing the runners with your money, right? They're not treating it with the respect it should. But obviously a brand like GameStop is publicly traded. They're a big brand, and they're going to treat it with some sort of professionalism. Now, some people might laugh at that because GameStop historically have had, significant issues, and they are not, looked upon super favorably from the video game collector market or video game buyers, players, whatever you want to call them. But I think this is a really good thing, and I think it's going to bring some professionalism to the process. And like I said, I think it's amazing because you're going to have, people that maybe don't want to use a group submitter or don't feel super comfortable submitting themselves, being able to go to their local store or a store somewhat local to them and send something into PSA. I think that's going to win PSA a lot of new customers, and I think bring some competition to it as well, because this might turn out to give other deals to people that use GameStop, right? Maybe if you buy a certain game on release, you're going to get a free submission, or vice versa, right? Interlinking with offerings to you as a collector, which means what? We're going to get more value off the back of it. Now, the reason why this is interesting, and I sort of mentioned breakers at the start, is that, like I said, when it comes to group submitters, this has now gone ahead and changed their industry overnight, right? PSA, a big brand, have gone to another big brand and said, let's work together to try and make some money. And all those people that are group submitters in the areas where the GameStops are going to be offering this as a service now have a bit more of a challenge in order to maintain some money. And this is, things that I've talked about in the past when you look through, okay, well, you're relying on this industry to put bread on the table. You're relying on this industry to feed your family. There's nothing really stopping you when this thing changes overnight. Either the market collapses or something like this pops up. And I think it's a reminder for breakers, because I wouldn't be surprised down the line if we see something very, very similar with Fanatics themselves. One of the things I've spoken about for a long time on this channel, in particular, when Fanatics announced their partnerships, and then in particular when they announced Fanatics Live, was that they're sort of leaving all the gains for people to make. You've got manufacturers selling product to someone. That person then goes ahead and sells that product on the secondary market. That person then goes ahead on a platform and breaks it. But from Fanatics' perspective, they're losing out on those abilities to make the money off the back of each of those sales. So my mind always went back to, why doesn't Fanatics go ahead and say to these breakers, you're going to be an exclusive breaker of Fanatics Live, and if you want to, get access to our product, you have to break on our platform. Like something like that, if they would implement that overnight, again, the industry would change pretty quickly, because it would kill retail product getting busted on whatnot. It would ruin those boxes being able to get sold and busted on the likes of YouTube and eBay, etc. That's something that I think people should be keeping in front of mind, especially with news like this, because there is nothing stopping people from, missing out because a company decides to go ahead and change its tune. And some of you guys might say, well, I think it's a bad thing having all these big companies sort of work together, because I think consumers, or you might think I should say, consumers end up missing out. But I think in a situation like this, I think this is the best thing, for collectors, irrespective of how terrible GameStop is. And I think by Fanatics maybe taking ownership of the breaking process and maybe streamlining it or funneling it into their own operation, you're going to see a lot of benefits off the back of that too. Obviously, there's some concerns around, the pricing, and maybe you can have a monopoly in that regard and all that kind of thing. But when you look at breaking and how much scammy and scumbag behavior goes on with these platforms, I think that's something that could be killed overnight by Fanatics doing something right. That's why I think it's a theory that might actually come true in some capacity within the future, right? They can control people doing bad things, right? Because the second they go ahead and do something, bang, you're banned for good, right? You're treating our products and our customers like trash. You're going to be trash yourself and get thrown out the door. So that's what's sort of spinning in my mind when it comes to fanatics in general, and why I think this industry could change quite quickly. But when I see this news from GameStop, it just triggers that, even further, because I think, like I said, this is awesome. I'm really keen to hear what some of you guys say down below. I don't know exactly how many stores are going to be, impacted. I haven't watched Neo Cards and Comics video, but I saw his thumbnail or his title, and he mentioned 3,000 stores. I'm assuming that's how many stores are in the US that are GameStop. So maybe he's just throwing that number out there, but it's going to be a select few stores. So I'd imagine it's going to be very small initially, and then they'll scale up, accordingly. But I think if you've got one of those nearby and you're interested in using PSA, I think you're going to be, better off by going through that process as opposed to some random group submitters out there. Now, ultimately, like I've said in the past, you're always better to go ahead and do it yourself, because you avoid the risk of somebody taking your cards out or damaging them as part of the packaging process or something along those lines. But I would imagine that you're going to see some pretty good value off the back of this. And if it's something, like I said, where they do deals for buying certain numbers of games, or if you buy a certain number of submissions, you get a game for a discount, something like that, right? That's the value we're going to see as consumers off the back of this, which I think is pretty cool. So I want to hear your thoughts down below, but it goes to what I've said a few times now in this video. Like, if you're somebody that's relying on this industry to sort of put food on the table, you need to be very conscious and cautious that things might change overnight. And this is news in of itself to show you that it can happen even today, even in 2024. You'll be very careful, because things can change very, very quickly. And if you're somebody, like I said, whose sole source of income is coming from trading cards, you could be in for a rude awakening, especially in the next 12 to 24 months, pending the results of the US election and the impact that might have on the global economy, as it often does. So that's it for my ramble today. Please let me know your thoughts down below. I really appreciate your guys' support for the last few videos. I've done really well. I've got a lot of likes and subscribers and comments off the back of them. And, of those three, the comments is the most important one, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because I love interacting with you guys in the comments. So if you'll keep that trend going with this one, that would be amazing. Please like, please subscribe, please leave a comment. Most importantly, please click the bell down below so you get a notification when my videos drop. And we'll keep going from there. But this one, like I said, pretty quick. I probably rambled, probably didn't make much sense, but I think this is cool news. I think Collector's going to be better for it. I hope we see more partnerships like this, because this trading card industry, this sports card industry, has so many inefficiencies throughout the whole process. I think it's still playing catch up. And I've said that many times before. I think risk appetite and the value offerings they're giving us, the value propositions they're giving us as customers, is not anywhere near where it should be. But stuff like this, where you can sort of break down those boundaries, break down those barriers, and try and benefit the collector and the customer, which I think this is ultimately going to do, I think it's awesome. So there will be PSA haters out there that will say this is terrible. There will be GameStop haters out there that will say this is terrible. But guys, I'm not just somebody that hates on this industry, right? I love to collect cards. Collecting cards is fun. And irrespective of my issues with PSA, I think this is something that's going to benefit collectors. So, I'm excited to sort of see what comes from it. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.